with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please remain standing for a moment of silence for our troops serving overseas, protecting the great nation of the United States. Great. Thank you very much. Have a seat. Welcome to the special village board meeting and workshop. Today is April 26th. It's now 7:05 p.m. And there's a quick change up in the agenda. I would like to call up Mr. Rob Magrino.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you taking me out of order. I have two items that I've asked the board to consider, both with respect to the Orange Avenue project, and as I discussed with Mr. Kraushaar before, there may be a third, but I'll get to that at the end. First, we'll talk about the stormwater maintenance agreement. DEC regulations require that a project of this size and nature that the applicant, or the developer, I should say, and owner of the property submit this stormwater maintenance agreement, form acceptable to the village. I've used a form that I've kind of tweaked that we got from the DEC, and it's provided all the information we need, contact persons, etc., checklists, and Charles has reviewed it from his department's perspective and approved it, so I have a resolution prepared for that, so the village can just formally accept that stormwater maintenance agreement. The other item was a parking agreement. As you'll recall, when the village passed the text change to the code that permitted this project to go in, there was a parking requirement that was in there. And one of the things that the board put in was that a certain amount had to be satisfied on site, but a certain amount could be satisfied off site. The village, the applicant and the village had discussions, and I understand an agreement in principle was reached where the village would provide, the applicant would be required to purchase 13 overnight parking permits to meet the parking requirements of site plan approval. So one of the conditions of site plan approval was that the applicant show proof that this parking agreement was entered into, and that they agreed with the village with respect to that. And again, that's something that we prepared and went back and forth with the applicant on. And so again, I've proposed this parking agreement that we have.
If I could just add to that, just to make it clear, those 13 parking spaces that you're referring to are annual permits. So
correct.
Every year.
It would be an annual overnight permit.
It's a little different than simply annual overnight. So it's annual plus overnight.
Right. I'm sorry, I'm saying them together.
Right, so it's annual, I would say plus overnight.
Annual
In addition
and
to
overnight.
And overnight.
Okay. We can.
And that was the calculation that was based upon the residential rates that are established in the village.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And there's provisions in there that as the rates go up, the rates in the agreement will go up, et cetera. There's violations if they do not go ahead and purchase the permits. They could be violated, be a violation of the agreement, be a violation of site plan. So,
And a tax-free levy as well.
right. So those are two.
So that you can re-levy down to the taxes, the parking. That was the question that I had.
Well,
They're agreeing to it.
they're
They're
agreeing,
agreeing.
right, right.
Okay.
Yeah. It's funny because at the beginning they said, well, we don't think we'll end up needing them because of the use and the amount of people maybe they don't anticipate having cars there. But then they got into specifics about which lots they want to be in. But no, it's a requirement. I mean, if they don't purchase them, it's a violation of the site plan. And
Did they speak to, did they discuss anything with you in regards to the time of during construction and the parking?
Well, that's what I had asked you. I assume they asked you. They made that change to the agreement, and I thought it was based upon a conversation with somebody here.
Yes.
So yes, they're asking to purchase 13 permits so that the construction workers can park there. And,
Right.
if they're purchasing the permits at the usual
There's
rates.
no on-site parking, there's nowhere
Right.
for them to park during the day during construction, so
Right.
that works resolution, I know that would be for Charles and the maintenance, the escrow account for $5,000 was sufficient, Charles, for the stormwater management agreement?
Well, I believe that was what was agreed to.
That's what was in the, I believe it came up during the site plan review, and that's the number
Okay,
that's there. And, what do I want to say about stormwater maintenance? That's the number I just now. It's, you know, those are, oh, it has the checklists that they'll have to do each year
Right.
and submit. And
okay,
again, if they don't do it, that's what the $5,000 is for. Again, that's a violation of site plan and a DEC violation if they don't do it.
okay,
The only other thing, the last thing we really need is what I'm calling a performance bond or a letter of credit. What they're doing is, I've been in touch with their bank, Sterling is going to be providing us with a letter of credit. The planning board set the amount of $118,000, or I should say recommended it. I'm going to submit that to this board once I have the letter of credit in hand and what I call a performance bond or an agreement by the applicant that they have to.
Developer's performance agreement.
Right, what the developer is going to agree to do, which is collateralized by that letter of credit, then I'll submit it to the board and ask it to accept that and set the amount. And again, that amount was arrived at by a consultation with Charles.
and that's to pertain to, so the board knows, for the curbs and sidewalks.
Right,
and
public improvements.
Public improvements, okay,
Right. If they did not get it back to me today, I told them to get it back to me today because I have a meeting here tonight. They did not. If they get it to me, you know, tomorrow, I would ask, you know, that I'll put it on for Monday.
for Monday.
I would like for there to not be an allowance for them to reduce that letter of credit as the improvements are put in.
It's not in the one I gave them. So
Okay?
it's not in the one.
Because sometimes developers get cute about that and they don't finish the project, and during the course of that time, the improvement that they put in gets destroyed,
Yeah.
and we don't have any collateral to force them.
Yeah, it's not in there. Again, there is a provision, I think, in the town, the village law that permits them to make an application for that, but we could cross that bridge if we get to it. But it's not in the letter of credit that I gave.
It would be evergreen.
Yeah, it is. It's renews every year. Okay, so hopefully I'll have that for Monday and we'll be able to address all three.
Okay,
Thank you.
sounds great.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking that over.
Okay. Now it's 7:15, I'd like to open up the public hearing, set the water rates. That's right, stay there.
Okay, just to be clear, the next four items were set for public hearing at the last board meeting. They were duly noticed. I do want to point out that last year, the board amended the local law, local by local law, amended the code provisions that relate to water and sewer rates, so that in the future being now, that the board wouldn't have to adopt new local laws every year to change the numbers, that they could do it by resolution. But I think it was prudent to, even though normally a resolution doesn't have to be done by public hearing, that we noticed it for a public hearing, giving everyone who's potentially affected by it notice of the intention to consider what the rates are going to be for the coming fiscal year. So in the first instance, we have a public hearing on water rates for the fiscal year 2017-18.
So I have a motion to open up the public hearing.
Motion. Second.
favor? Aye, motion passes.
Okay, so the water rates, the first thing is that the basic minimum charge of $35 for the first 10 units or fraction thereof is not changing for the residential. I mean, people within the village limits. Those outside the village limits, it's $60, the same as it has been for the past several years, so they did not change. The portion that is 10 units, again, within the village, but less than 71 units of water, is $3.47 per unit. That's as opposed to the current rates, which are $3.35 per unit. And then finally, the portion over 70 units is $4.53 per unit, where in the previous year, it was actually $3.83. So that's the difference in the rates between 2017 and 18. And outside the village, $60 is the same as last year for the minimum amount. And the amount for units over 10 units of water is $5.21 per unit of water. That's the change in the water rates. Those water rates are designed in order to fund the water fund, other than some minor amount of revenues that we receive for other things like interest and penalties and various water charges.
Okay. Anyone from the public would like to speak?
Yes. I go
Step
back.
up, sure, come on up, state your name and address, please.
It's Paul Gerard, 2 Cross Street. I brought up at the initial budget hearing earlier this month, and as far as the water fund goes, that we're still including a $200,000 contingency in here, and that we still have a $200,000 contingency that was unused from last year.
From the current year, you mean?
From, yes, the current year.
2017.
Yes, the current year. So those are unspent, so I'm trying to understand why we're overtaxing or overcharging us on water by $400,000. At a minimum, I would think that we'd be able to, if we need to carry a contingency, that we can carry over this current year, since there's only a month left and it's not expected to be spent.
Well, to begin with, I wouldn't say that it's not expected to be spent. We don't know what can happen in May. For instance, we expected March to be a nice mild month for the winter, like every other month. It turned out to be one of our heaviest in overtime due to a storm, or a set of storms that we didn't anticipate. So you can never tell what's going to happen as the months end. The second thing is the water fund and the sewer fund both, as with the general fund. Those funds were in severe financial difficulties, which caused us to go to deficit financing. After fiscal year 15 cleared up, we were able to get the financing for the 15-16 year at the very end of that year, I should say, so that we are still on this pathwards up. Now, I didn't look to see what the actual fund balance was in the water fund versus how it ended up in 2016, but I believe I sent you an email earlier today that talked about the general fund. And two things on the general fund should be noted at the end of 2016. While we may show a paper, I will say, a paper surplus, meaning where the budgets were beneficial, meaning that we spent less than we anticipated, and we brought in more revenues predominantly from unanticipated things from the beginning of the year, like the sale of the building, and of course those bonds that were issued, the deficit bonds. At the end of the year, we had a cash balance in the general fund of $315,000. That's at the end of the year when you have a budget of roughly $12 million. So that's not a huge amount. The fund balance, the unassigned fund balance, which is your available fund balance in the general fund.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, why are we talking about the general fund now?
Because I want to tell you that if I go back to the water fund, I would probably find that a very similar situation exists. If I may finish, the general fund had less than an 11% to expenditures fund balance. The water fund and the sewer fund have continually had issues in terms of trying to be caught up in terms of their fund balance. And that is why when we look at a contingency fund that at the worst case scenario doesn't get spent and falls to fund balance, we can actually build the fund balance with it, that's a positive thing. So I would highly recommend to this board to keep that contingency in there for two reasons. Number one, this $200,000 is for the year going forward, and you cannot tell what's going to happen in the next 12 months in the water fund. The second thing is that any money that was left over in the water fund that helps to build that water fund balance is only going to be positive for us and part of our plan to come out of this deficit over a period of years.
Okay, but you're not explaining it that you're trying to build a balance. You're just putting in something called contingency, and there's a lot of, the average resident is not going to understand what that means. Why aren't you just being forthright and saying, we feel we need to increase our balance at the beginning of the year, and therefore we're going to charge an additional $200,000 built into the rates to do that?
Because that's not the case. The contingency is there for the unexpected, unanticipated things that may happen during the year that you can't account for.
Okay, so
Now, in our water and sewer fund, as you can probably guess, there are many regulations out from the EPA and the DEC, and you've been to many of these meetings and seen many of them on TV. You've seen what happens when, for instance, we have a problem at the water plant or the sewer plant, a new regulation comes out that requires us to spend extra money we did not anticipate. If we don't take care of it almost immediately, we end up with some very severe fines, or worse, the inability to provide good quality water to the residents.
okay, so you feel $200,000 is sufficient to cover us for the next 12 months?
Yes, that's what I believe is for the
Okay,
unexpected.
is $200,000 sufficient to cover us for 13 months?
We don't budget for 13 months, we budget.
Well, I know, but we have $200,000 that has been unused for this year. And you're saying there's 1 month left this year, and then there's an additional 12 months. So
And-
if I
and as I
can't use that
said-
200,000 to cover us for the next 13.
Correctly, but there's 400,000.
Well, it says it right
There's
in
200,000 in the general fund and 200,000 in the water fund. They're two separate funds.
Right, but it's not that you increased.
And we didn't increase anything. It's the same as last year's
It's
budget.
carryover.
It's the same
Right,
year as
but
last
But
year.
it's not 400,000.
It's 200 this year.
Do the same thing, program. Keep it to the water fund.
I know. I'm talking about 200,000 that was in this year's budget, has not been spent, and now we're putting in another 200,000 in the water fund for next year's budget. That's the 400,000 I'm referring to.
Isn't it?
And,
No, it's not a
no, but
I would like it to be a carryover.
if we end up
So maybe
not
you're
spending
agreeing
the
with me
money,
then.
it will build our balance in the water fund, which is needed, as well as the sewer fund.
Okay, but if that's the case, why aren't you communicating it that way? Other than just budgeting an item that doesn't exist? I mean, this is part of my concern as a resident, is there's a lack of transparency here. We're putting in something called contingency, but what you're explaining that our fund is at a level that we're uncomfortable with and is risky, and so we want to increase it. So why don't you put that in your literature in the budget, and, you know, then at least there'd be some explanation behind you doing this. I mean,
Well,
There's no mention of
I
that.
fail to understand what you mean by lack of transparency. It's in the budget document. The budget document is up on the web. The budget document is available to the residents. At meetings when contingency is brought up, I believe I've answered the question more than once, and I also will say again, if we do not spend contingency during the year, if we don't use it to provide for the unexpected, then we have it to contribute to the fund balance. And I wouldn't lower the budget next year because we have a small amount of fund balance now added to where we should have a much larger fund balance in the water fund, or the sewer fund for that matter.
okay, well, that's puzzling, given that you said we haven't spent that contingency. That we would have such a low balance.
A low balance because the water fund is not a huge fund. I mean, it is a much larger fund than $200,000.
Yeah, it's in here as a $2 million
Correct.
expenditure. Right. So we have 10% that was not used, has not been used this year, and we want to keep another 10%.
We haven't finished the year. It
That's
depends
why
on both
I
the
asked you if you
expenditure
were
side.
comfortable with 200,000 covering 13 months, and you said yes, and that's what we really have left, and you have that 200,000.
That's it, by the end of the year, our revenues come in as anticipated as well as our expenditures. We have had the loss of Novartis, which actually left earlier than we
But that's
anticipated.
accounted for in here. You accounted for lower units.
That is correct.
You've got units going from 608 to 588 to
But we haven't
449.
finished up 2017 yet. Our second billing for 2017 is going to
Just
go out in May.
Well, what does that mean? You're not expecting,
That means I'm concerned about the revenues for 2017.
well, Novartis has been out though.
Well, when we developed the budget for 2017, Novartis was just going out, and we understood there was going to be a more gradual decline of them. They were going to slowly back up on or cut back on their operations. They significantly cut back much quicker than anticipated. And in fact, it was told to us in the meeting.
Okay, well, I see we're not going to agree on this. I did point out at the last meeting that there were some expenses that seem to be increasing at a rapid rate. I don't know if you've looked into these at all, but I pointed out contractual expenses in the source of supply, power, and pumping have gone from 209 to 255 to 273. The hospital and medical has gone from 177 to 187 to 222.
Do you know anybody's healthcare that goes down?
This is, well, look, I'll be glad to hear an explanation. I asked the question. I'm not saying whether or not they're reasonable. I'm asking, I had asked at the last meeting to look into these. And then contractual expenses under transmission distribution go from 65 to 95. So has anybody
In
looked
terms
into
of
those?
contractual expenses, they're based on the chemicals, repairs, equipment, things that have to be purchased for the water plant in this case. They go up according to what the department head has reviewed in terms of their spending needs and their spending history, and they've reviewed them with us. And where necessary, they have cut back on when they developed this tentative budget. But the fact of the matter is the cost of chemicals and repairs and equipment for the contractual expenses do go up. The hospital and medical has indeed gone up, but that is the rate that we're charged by the New York State Health Insurance Plan. We go by what they tell us are the increases we're going to see in the forthcoming year.
Okay, so nobody really went back and looked at the contractual expenses after I asked about
No,
them?
no, we looked at it, but
You felt like they were good?
yes,
Okay.
they were reviewed several times with the Charles Sorkin and others to make sure that the budget, it's just that costs do go up.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else from the public like to speak? Sure.
Michael did a wonderful job of explaining that. About the contingency, I think it might add some clarity to talk about how companies such as Moody's, when they rate a municipality, they like to see so much of a contingency within the overall budget itself, like a 20 to 30%. And that will add the financial strength of the municipality, therefore you can borrow money at a better rate and thus save the municipality tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, actually Moody's will look at the fund balance being 20 to 30%. 20% is the minimum that they would consider for an A rating typically, and that if you want something better than that, they really do like to see something at 30% or better in the fund balance that you're available. As far as the contingency, yes, they do like to see a contingency in the funds in order to provide for the unexpected events that can occur, whether it's a drop in revenue or an expenditure you did not anticipate.
If that's the motivation, then explain it in the budget document. Makes it easier for us to understand why you're doing it.
Something else you should consider, we have 4 wells that periodically get redeveloped. That's on a schedule. That's not counting anything that breaks. So you have to have money to redevelop those wells.
Again,
You can't,
that makes a lot of
you
sense.
can't predict when something's gonna go wrong.
Then just explain that. Explain that you're putting in a contingency for these unexpected.
Well, that's what Mike told you.
Well, but it's not in the published document coming out to the public, and.
So you want notes, is what you're saying. In other words,
Yeah.
put an asterisk and put a note.
If that's the reason why we're putting it in, I would appreciate it being
Okay.
explained.
Okay, anyone else from the public? This time, I'd like to close the public hearing. I have a motion.
Motion, close that public hearing.
I have a second. Any further discussion?
He seconded.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Before me, I have a resolution amending the Village of Suffern water rates for fiscal year 2017-2018 pursuant to local law number 3 of 2016 adopted on April 11, 2016, which allows for future water uses to be amended by resolution. And whereas a new water rate for fiscal year 2017-2018 are to be amended as follows. For consumers within the village, the first 10 units or fraction thereof, $35 minimum charge.
Yeah.
B, for a portion over 10 units, less than 71 units, $3.47 per unit. For that portion over 70 units of water, $4.53 per unit. For consumers outside the village, the first 10 units or fraction thereof, $60. For that portion over 10 units, $5.21. Now therefore be resolved by the village board that the village board of the Village of Suffern does hereby adopt the foregoing water rates effective June 1st, 2017. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Okay, now 7:35, to open the public hearing on the sewer rates. I have a motion. Second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye. I have it.
So on the sewer rates, similar to the water rates, the rates are designed in order to provide enough revenue to fund the sewer department for the operating fiscal year of 2017-18. And the minimum sewer rate for both inside the village and outside the village is the same as has been, $25. The rate for consumers within the village is $9.95 per 100 cubic feet of water consumed. A cubic foot of water is also known as a unit of water. And the sewer rate for those outside the village limits is $12.44 per 100 cubic feet of water consumed.
Okay, is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak in regards to the sewer rate?
Yes. That's my name again.
We know what you saw. Hold your eye.
Garage from Cross Street. All right, same issue here, contingency 100,000. Do I expect the same response?
No, actually, it's the same response as regards contingency is there for the unexpected, unanticipated. And if there's contingency left over, among other things, if there happens to be a positive amount left over, it would fall to fund balance, but I will add that in the future budget message, the one for the adopted budget, we will put in an explanation of contingency to assist the reading public.
Okay, thank you. Contractual expenses here as well. I pointed out last meeting.
It's generally the same answer. The chemicals and supplies necessary to keep the sewer plant operating properly go up in price, and those price that budget was developed with the amount of chemicals that would be needed to meet everything, including odor control at the sewer.
Okay. I may follow up with you and get some details on the contractual expenses, like I did last year, or earlier this fiscal year, given that they just seem to be going up at a rapid pace. Finally, the long-term debt. It more than doubled this year and is now at that same rate there. So what is going on there that has gone up from
Well, what happened
211
was,
to 460 to?
yeah, what actually happened was, believe it or not, prior to 2016, we had another bond that used to be outstanding, the 2002 bond. And actually, if you had compared it to 2015, you would see that the rates actually, the actual debt service was pretty similar to what it was in 2017, what it's going to be in 2018. The reason why the debt service is higher in 2017 and in 2018 is because we have the 2016 serial bonds. That's the deficit bonds that were added on. If you look on page 30 of the tentative budget, that's the breakdown of it. You'll see that the serial bond interest on the debt service fund, as it's broken out, you'll see that there is the sewer as the additional amount, the principal. Oh, this is the difference, the deficit. It's really the deficit financing that now came into full payment, if you will. In other words, the amount that we have to pay on the 2016 bonds is adding to the debt service for the year. If you look at the sewer fund, compared to last year, the current year, 2017, the debt service is almost the same. It was $462,000 this year,
Yes.
$466,000 for 2018. The reason why it was much lower in 2016 is because we didn't have the 2016 bonds on.
Okay. So that's a lot more debt. So we're in a better position. But okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so Mr. Mayor, you're comfortable with, we've got a 14% increase on the sewer rate this year versus the year prior, and now we have another, are we sticking with these rates, the 26 that's in here?
Slightly lower.
Slightly lower. Okay. I know there's a lot of residents with fixed incomes. I certainly don't have a struggle with this, but these are huge increases for people that are.
We try to point out the median home and what they would use in sewer.
Yeah.
That'd be about $64 a year more. We understand that can be difficult on some people. Unfortunately, we're bound by maintaining a sewer plant to meet all the EPA and DEC standards. And
It seems like all the deficit financing is raising the rates. That's the biggest increase by far.
well, not this year. 2017.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's the contingency.
Contingency is part of it.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else from the public that would like to speak? Okay, make a motion to close the public hearing. It's now 7:40. Have a motion?
Motion.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye, motion passes. The resolution amending the Village of Suffern sewer rates for fiscal year 2017-2018, pursuant to local law number 4 of 2016, adopted on April 11, 2016, which allows for future sewer rates to be amended by resolution. And whereas the new sewer rates for fiscal year 2017-18 are to be amended as follows. For consumers within the village, the sewer rate shall be $9.95 per 100 cubic foot of water consumed. The minimum sewer rate shall be $25 per building period. For consumers outside the village limits, the sewer rate shall be $12.44 per cubic feet of water consumed. The minimum sewer rate shall be $25 per building period. Now for be resolved, the village board of Village of Suffern does hereby adopt the foregoing sewer rates effective June 1st, 2017. I have a motion?
Motion.
A second? Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Need water. Dan's getting water. All right.
Have to be prepared for the citizens.
Okay, let's see. It is now 7:43. I'd like to open the public, I have a motion to open the public hearing for property tax levy in excess of the limit established in General Municipal Law 3C.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, so we have the,
So, what this is the state of New York came out with a tax levy limit law, which basically established that the tax levy in any given year cannot be more than 2% of the prior year or the rate of inflation, whichever is lower. And that was passed in 2011. If the tax levy is to go above the 2%, increase more than 2% or the rate of inflation, then the village would have to adopt a law to override the tax levy limit. In the tentative budget, the village would be overriding the tax levy limit. As we will probably see as the evening wears on, that the proposals that were made by the mayor and the board since that last tentative budget was presented will result in the fact that we probably will not exceed, in fact, we will not exceed the tax levy limit if that budget is adopted. However, it's been recommended by the New York Conference of Mayors and others that we actually adopt this local law to override the tax levy limit. We adopt our budget at some point after that. If we are below the tax levy limit, when we fill out the tax levy limit form, we would submit it to the state controller for review. And if the controller confirms that we indeed are below the tax levy limit, we can rescind within 30 days the law that we adopted to override. So it's recommended by myself and by others that we do adopt this law to override the tax levy limit.
okay. Does anyone from the public like to speak on this?
Yes.
What are we you said we're not expected to exceed it at this point?
Correct.
So you've made adjustments to the tentative budget that was shared?
There have been proposed changes to the budget that if adopted would
Okay.
be below the tax levy.
Are we planning to go through those tonight, or?
Yes.
Okay. So, but you're saying it's recommended to pass this anyway?
Yes, because you can, if you do not pass it, and let's say that you assumed that you were below the tax levy limit and you adopted a budget as such, and then you submitted it to the state controller's office, and they discovered that there was something that should have been included in that calculation that wasn't, and indeed you were over the limit, you would not be able to utilize or raise that tax levy. As a matter of fact, what you would have to do is raise the levy and then put the excess money into a reserve fund and not be able to use it for the year. And so you'd obviously have to cut back on the budget you adopted. So rather than have that kind of an issue come up, it's better just to adopt this law, go ahead and do your, adopt your budget. If you're below the tax levy limit, you submit the form to the state controller's office, which you have to do anyway, but ask them to please confirm that, in fact, we are below the limit. Once they confirm that, we can then adopt the law to rescind this one.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else from the public? No. Now 7:47, I'd like to close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Just
No?
to
Go ahead.
make it clear that all members present would have to vote in favor of this.
So we
So
roll
let's do a roll call.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Roll call.
Should I do the resolution first and then roll call? Okay. We have before me Village of Suffern local law authorizing property tax levy in excess of the limit established in general municipal law, section 3C. So we do a roll call vote. Do I have a motion? Do a motion and then roll call.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt the local law.
I'll make a motion.
A second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Mr. Hagen?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Ms. Hertzman?
Yes.
Yes. And I vote yes. Motion passes. Okay. At 7:48, I'd like to open the public hearing on the solid waste fee. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
With solid waste fees, we have what we commonly call the curbside solid waste district, which is the district serving the residential properties other than condominiums in the village of Suffern. The annual service charge will be $488 per unit. And on the container solid waste district, which predominantly serves the condominium units in Suffern, the annual service charge is $179 per unit.
Okay, anyone from the public would like to speak on the solid waste fees?
Paul Gerard, 2 Cross Street. Just a quick clarifying question. On the recyclables, the revenue, 21,000, I noticed that it doesn't hit the line in 2016. Does that hit somewhere else, another budget, general fund?
There was a particular issue in the 2016 year that we're resolving with the card. So
Oh, I see.
that's, it's not.
Okay, but that's pretty, the expectation is there for that revenue. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, this time I'll close the public hearing. 7:50, do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye, motion passes. I have a resolution amending the Village of Suffern solid waste fees for fiscal year 17-18. We resolve the Village of Suffern does hereby adopt the following solid waste fees for fiscal year 2017-2018. For curbside solid waste, the fee is $488 per unit per year. For container solid waste, the fee is $179 per unit per year. Be resolved, the village board does hereby adopt the foregoing solid waste fees effective June 1st, 2017. I have a motion?
Motion.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye, motion passes. Okay. You good, Virginia?
Yeah, I can't see, is that tape still going?
Yes, yes, still a little bit.
Still a little bit?
A little bit.
Okay, let's see. Now, 7:50, I'd like to open the public hearing for the adoption of the 2017, oh, no public hearing, I'm sorry, excuse me. Adoption of the 2017-2018 village budget. Mr. Junedo.
Mr. Mayor, as you know, last month we had a public hearing on the budget, and at that time, the tentative budget was presented, and the board has since looked at the budget to determine and spoken with various department heads to see what adjustments might be made, as well as the fact that we have some late information that had come in. When I say late as earlier this month, and it was good information. And with that, we have a budget that has some significant reductions in it, and I'll go over those in a short amount. So,
We just, we can hold it.
All right, hold on, Mike. Would be 182.
Hold on for a minute. Okay. Also,
so in summary, this is what it looks like. The original, the tentative budget that was presented to the public was showing a tax rate for 1,000 assessed value of $80.02, which was an increase of $5.18 or 6.9%. Likewise, the amount of the budget would have overridden the tax cap by $200,000 plus. The village board went through a number of changes, proposed changes to the budget. Nothing is official until it's adopted, of course. But what they have come up with is a budget now that is showing a tax levy of $78.06, or $3.22 more than the prior fiscal year, and a 4.3% increase. Likewise, this budget with the changes brings us below the tax cap by approximately $40,000. So it's very fortuitous, and the question, of course, is, well, how did we get there? And here are the key points. There were a number of changes, and actually those will be adopted, and I can go over those individually, but in summary, our general liability insurance quotes came in much lower than anticipated. We had a meeting with our insurance brokers and so forth. That allowed a reduction of approximately $75,000. Our police department agreed to a $50,000 reduction in overtime requested based on the fact that there would be now at least 3 physical police officers on service that were not there last year. We had 2 police officers, while they were being budgeted, were not physically available for service. They were out on long-term line of duty injuries, and they have since retired. So there will be 2 people actively replacing them. The other thing is that one other officer was out on the Rockland County Drug Task Force and assigned to that, and he is back in village service on a regular basis now. So that would allow us to reduce the overtime. In the meantime, the village board did settle the contract with the dispatchers, and that amount was approximately $14,000 or $15,000 added to it. So the net impact of the reduction in the overtime of $50,000 and the increase in the salaries for dispatchers was a net reduction of approximately $36,000. In the street department, the street maintenance overtime was reduced by $35,000 in view of the fact that we will have a vacant labor position filled, and that position is $34,000. One other vacant labor position valued at $34,000 is being eliminated. So the total cost on that is $69,000. The parking department had a contractual amount for a consultant of $12,000, which will no longer be necessary, as all of that work can be done in-house at the village hall. As you know, the parking authority was merged into the village a couple of years ago, and that merger is relatively complete at this point. And as well, there was a parking enforcement aid that will not be needed in that area for approximately $10,000. So the total reduction in that area is $22,500. And finally, we took another look at the fines and forfeited bail revenue and the history of our collections in there. And we're comfortable in increasing that revenue amount by $20,000. So that's, in a nutshell, what happened. And we have a resolution that was prepared for the board to adopt the budget. And there, if you'd like, I'll go over the individual items.
Sure.
So the changes in the general fund were to decrease the village treasurer's personal services by $8,262, decrease unallocated insurance by $75,070, decrease the village clerk's personal services by $4,000, decrease personal services for police by $35,780, decrease fire equipment by $1,000, decrease fire contractual by $2,000. And I'll have to note that some of these changes where these amounts are made, these were suggested by the departments after discussing with them and asking them where we might see some additional cuts in the budget. Again, the street maintenance personal services reduced by $69,000. Decreased parking personal services, $10,572. Decreased parking contractual by $12,000. Increased playground and rec center personal services by $612. Decrease playground and rec centers contractual by $3,250. Decrease the Suffern Community Center contractual by $1,200. Increase employees' retirement by $25,090. And just as a quick note on that, in terms of retirement for employees, the retirement system bases their next billing for us on our April through March, April 2016 through March 2017 activity. We assumed initially in the tentative budget that March was going to be a mild month, and obviously that was wrong. We had some severe snow weather that really boosted the overtime, plus an additional pay period in there that hit us for the retirement amount. But likewise, there was a decrease in police retirement because again, those salaries came in a little bit different and almost balanced it out, like $21,327. There was a decrease in workers' compensation by $5,237. That's after talking with our brokers and getting the rates for the year. An increase in revenues for pool fees by $6,500. There's a minor increase in some of the fees that the pool will be charging for swim lessons and other areas. An increase in fines and forfeited bail, as I mentioned, of $20,000. Now, our budgets include also our container solid waste district and curbside solid waste district. So we have an increase in the employee's retirement of $1,446 in the container, and a decrease of $5,931 in the workers' compensation. There was in the water fund a decrease in personal services of $6,131, a decrease in contractual by $9,765, a decrease in employee retirement of $1,239, an increase in workers' compensation of $3,361. Now, in the other part of the water fund, which is the power and supply, there was an increase in employees' retirement of $1,934 and a decrease in workers' comp of $7,535. So there's a very minor change in that area. The sewer fund had a decrease in personal services of $6,131, a decrease in contractual of $9,165, decrease in employee retirement of 1,239, increase workers' comp by 4,061, increase in employees' retirement of 1,443, and a decrease in workers' comp of $235. One other thing I'll note about the water and sewer fund, some of those decreases in personal services are related to the allocated cost of administration that is charged against them. So when we had a decrease in the general fund in those areas, it also decreased the personal services in the water and sewer. In other words, it's not water and sewer personnel, it's the allocation of the cost for the administration of village water. And so that, in essence, is a nutshell, and in a nutshell is what it is. At the conclusion of sometime after the meeting, and the budget has been adopted, if everything is adopted as is, a budget will be prepared, a completed adopted budget with a revised message to indicate changes and explain contingency. And other than that, everything will be in that budget. And as this resolution states, it's the budget, these changes together with the entire budget as it was proposed, that it's adopted.
And the overall general budget increase on the tax rate.
Yeah, so the overall increase, as I noted, it's going to be $3.22 or 4.3%. And it's going to be below the property levy tax limit. The other thing that I will note is that the state controller did review the candidate budget, and similar to last year, they noted that the revenues and expenditures were reasonable. And they also noted to us that if we did have a budget that was going to be adopted in excess of the tax levy limit, that we had to adopt that law prior to adopting the budget. But if this budget is adopted as presented, then you will not be overriding the,
Right, and then we will rescind that.
after the
Tax
state
cap.
controller confirms the laws.
Right. Okay.
Yes, Captain.
Michael, Mayor, I have a question. On the budget, there are different positions for recreation, and I'm still unclear of what the staffing will be.
That we'll discuss afterwards. This isn't the time, this isn't the public hearing. We're gonna adopt the budget as presented. Well, we're gonna vote on it. And
But the
then,
positions didn't look clear even in page 38 of the budget. There was positions that, if you could just tell me if those positions are what you're looking at, I guess that's what my question is. There's 3 part-time positions and then a full-time. It wasn't mentioned, that's why I had to just ask tonight, I wasn't sure.
no, 34. Is the coordinator?
I have it, I'm looking at the one from online that I just pulled up before.
Oh,
It says there's a coordinator, then there's a rec, mine says 38, but they're saying it's 34. It says rec info clerk part-time, rec info clerk full-time, and then rec leader part-time. So I'm just curious of what those positions are.
don't we have the, yeah. We'll clarify that with you.
Before the budget is adopted or
No,
after?
we're gonna, yes. That's not decided. Okay. Okay, so we have the proposed changes in front of you, along with the budget and the increases and the other adoptions of the sewer, water, and solid waste. So I have the resolution before me, resolution to adopt the 2017-2018 budget for fiscal year ending May 31st, 2018. Therefore, be it resolved that the village board of the village of Suffern does hereby adopt the following amendments to the 2017-2018 tentative budget and same, together with the remaining portion of the 2017-2018 tentative budget, shall constitute the 2017-2018 adopted budget for the village of Suffern. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote. Mr. Hagen?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Ms. Hertzman?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So the budget passes. All in favor, aye. Motion passes.
I'd like to just add on a quick resolution, authorize the village clerk treasurer to publish the notice of adoption of the budget and to levy the tax based on that shown in the adopted budget. Can I have a motion to that effect?
What, you want that too?
Only thing I asked for.
I'll make a motion.
All right. Moira makes the motion, Joe seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes, okay. Okay, next up is the...
Mr. Mayor, excuse me, can we put this child out of his
Oh,
misery?
geez.
Is that really how you want to phrase it, Jim?
We have all the public hearings. Yeah, now we're in the...
You close the meeting? Aren't you going to close the meeting?
Is that incorporated into the same
I'm
meeting?
just gonna
Yeah, fine.
grandchildren.
Okay, you know what? We're going to call up...
Do you want all this in the minutes then? For the workshop?
Right.
Say thank you, Jim.
I'm getting, yeah.
Getting out of here.
Why can't we close the meeting and then?
Want to hang out for the rest of the day?
Carter, would you like to make a statement?
Do you have a statement to make?
Say, I want to go home. All right, tell Mom to come up here.
You want the minutes
Thank
from
you
the
guys for
workshop?
being so accommodating
Why
to my
don't we just
wonderful
close the
son.
meeting?
All right, hold on. I'm sorry, Corinne. I make a motion to close the budget meeting.
Motion.
Second. All in favor? Aye.